Hello world, what's up guys? I am Dave with Fight Bananas. We are here with the voice of UFC Fight Pass, now the voice of iKON Fighting Federation, TJ Santis. How you doing, buddy?
The voice of Fight Pass. That's pretty exciting. That almost sounds as fancy as David Van Auken.
You know.
You got 3 names.
I know, I like that.
My first name is just 2 letters and you have 3 names.
Yeah, I don't know what to say to that. I think I like that.
I think you're winning. I think that's what that is.
We're all on the same team though.
That's true.
We are winning.
We are winning.
We are winning, and we are winning with great fights tonight.
Yeah.
Unbelievable stacked show.
Yeah, no, it's such a weird time. 2020 has been this year that, for all intents and purposes, has been canceled in a lot of ways. And,
right.
Like, I know that we're now entering September, right? Like, I gotta look at the calendar. It's September, and I feel in a lot of ways like it's still March, and we're just kind of getting back into gear, and I think we're gonna make up for some lost time with the debut of iKON.
I do too. Even with the fighters, I've talked to so many fighters on this card, and all of them have been itching to kind of get back into it, make a major statement.
Right.
A lot of fighters, and that's what I talked to Dean Toole about it last night. And this is kind of maybe the main where I want to go with it is there's so 3, 4, 5 guys that are so close. Like this could be their launching pad to the UFC, to so many other big stuff ahead of them. I think it's going to be a big night.
Yeah, you know, talking to Dean, looking at what iKON hopes to be and plans to be, it's like this pipeline of the Contender Series or directly into the Octagon.
Right.
And we're at a time now, with UFC Fight Pass, you can see not only the entire history of the sport, but the future of the sport in a lot of ways. And when you think about, like, I love baseball, okay? But I don't want to watch a minor league baseball game.
No, it does.
But I will watch the minor leagues of MMA and prospects any day of the week. Because, you know, a stick and ball game is just that. It's a stick and ball game. But a fight is a fight. You never know what you're going to get. And I think, you know, with Dean's matchmaking in the past, if you have tuned in for an Island Fights, it's always action. And now with iKON, it's the same sort of thing. And I think the biggest sticking point about getting to that next level is this is a sport where you can be the best in the world, but if you don't get people to care, it's very hard to progress and get opportunities. This is a promotion that I feel will be one that puts out wins for a lot of guys, but with style points, where you're going to be forced to pay attention to how these guys perform because they're going to make you, and that's super exciting.
That, and which I love what you said too. You're going to know who they are. You're going to know the stories. We're going to know the backstories of Tyler Zombie Hill being on the Contender Series 20 months ago, 24 months ago, getting a big win, and now he's back, and he's 1 win away, we think, from the UFC.
I was talking to him yesterday. He's terrifying. And I mean that in the best way because he is so determined and so hungry. Like that word in mixed martial arts gets thrown around a lot, hunger. Well, everyone's hungry. Everyone wants to win. Everyone wants to make it to the next level. But he's talked about, you know, potentially hanging up his gloves and not fighting prior to this. And, you know, he decided that he's going to make one more really solid run with it. And the thing that really stuck out to me is when Tyler was talking about his family, he's like, this is hard on my family. This is not something that I'm just sacrificing for. The people that around me, my loved ones, are sacrificing. He's like, I got to make that work. It has to all be worthwhile. And like that is something that I think a lot of people don't really realize. Like when you are a fighter at the highest level, you have to be selfish.
Yeah, the sacrifices.
And it affects a lot of people more than just yourself. It's not just depriving yourself of, you know, a banana split, you know, after dinner. Or,
we're going to talk about that soon.
That's exactly why I picked that dessert. But yeah, like I feel like Tyler, it's not like if he loses this fight, his career is over, per se, but I do feel he has a sense of urgency that he's never felt before.
Right. Talked to him numerous times. He keeps on using the same phrase, beautiful phrase, it's time. He just keeps using it, it's time, it's time.
I've heard that somewhere before. Maybe before every UFC main event.
I don't know, maybe we'll get there. But his opponent, there, real quick, that's hit on Johnny Parsons, I've been hearing phenomenal things about him. An absolute stud, a striker. It's going to be tough for Tyler Hill. Everyone thinks that Tyler's going to just get a win and move on. This is a tough match. Great co-main event.
No, Johnny Parsons, I mean, he's the Muay Thai coach at one of the premier gyms in mixed martial arts and Syndicate MMA. And, you know, he wants to put on a show not only, you know, for himself, but he wants to get himself to the next level, but also for his students. You know, when you are the top striking coach at one of the top gyms, you have to live up to some expectations. And, you know, the zombie Tyler Hill is a perfect dance partner for this fight.
Unbelievable. All right, let's go. You mentioned banana split. We got to go right there. One of the UFC Fight Pass's darlings, I believe, Christian Lowson, also on the Contender Series. Didn't go his way, almost just like Tyler Hill. I've talked to him and his gym and his father. A couple injuries going into the fight, not right, but of course you have to take that opportunity and run with it. He says he feels phenomenal through this whole COVID 2020. A nice mental and physical break, and now he feels the best he's ever felt in years and years. I'm expecting huge things tonight from Christian Lawson.
There are a lot of people that are excited about his potential, and for good reason. I mean, I've never pulled a fight with a banana split in my life, ever. I've called a lot of jiu-jitsu tournaments, never had a banana split.
Wow.
And the fact that he was able to pull it off in an MMA fight, he even said that the banana split presents itself more easily in MMA compared to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or wrestling, which is where he actually kind of refined and got a hold of that move and added it to his arsenal. So the fact that he can find something that is so statistically rare in a fight, quote unquote, relatively easy. Like, we want to talk about style points. Like, Christian Lawson has style points.
Yes.
And, he's always going to be looking for them.
Style points. How about the green hair with Christian?
Oh, I know. I was joking with him. His nickname is Hollywood, and I guess it's because he moved, and when he moved to his new school, it was because he was from California. They just called him Hollywood, and I'm like,
and it stuck.
Yeah, like, I don't really feel like that Hollywood vibe from you, but he's like, oh no, man, my hair matches my shorts. Like, I got a little diva in me.
Yeah.
Like, okay, all right, that's all right.
And the opposite way again, Hughes Jr. Real 3-1. Again, tough opponent. This is why we're so excited for iKON Fighting Federation. There's no hot prospect versus an 0-4 guy or one if like they just don't do it. Hughes is one of those guys that he wants to make a statement. He can. Christian, huge name, UFC Fight Pass. We talked about the Darlin. If he gets the win in a great fashion, his name goes up. So this is a big moment for Hughes Jr.
That's the thing about mixed martial arts is obviously when there's a title on the line, there's a physical belt that changes hands. But in mixed martial arts and combat sports, every fight in a roundabout way is a title fight because you can steal the shine from your opponent. You can steal that steam, especially if you do it with style points, as we were talking about. And talking to DJ, he was so incredibly, almost silent in a way. Like he was speaking, don't get me wrong, but like he was very focused and very one wordy with a lot of things. And kind of getting to the underlying cause of that, it's because I think this is the biggest fight of his life.
Right.
Like, I mean, he's new as a pro, relatively new, 5 fights, but he's taking on a guy that could propel him to the highest of heights for a guy who's less than 5 fights into his career. If he beats the dude who pulled off a banana split, then maybe he finds himself in the Contender Series, or this is a time of COVID where if you're in shape, all of a sudden you're in the UFC.
Exactly. Yeah. 5-day, 8-day notice, 1-day notice. You never know right now. UFC, they're at Fight Island right now. So many big things. One more fight and then one name, and then we have to talk about the main event. The card is so great. We haven't even hit on the main event. Most of the time, I feel like in mixed martial arts, that's where it starts. It kind of starts there. You talk about it. And then also, by the way, there could be a fight of the night down here. This iKON show is so stacked from top to bottom. AJ Cunningham. Really huge future. Bryce Mitchell, family member, corner, something of that nature. Jewel Scott, gritty veteran, been around the game a long time, over a decade. But AJ's got a ton of praise, ton of clout around his name right now. You
mentioned Bryce Mitchell. It's his cousin. Says he's constantly compared to his cousin because of that affiliation. I mean, it's hard to be compared to Bryce Mitchell.
That's a good one, though.
That's a good one. Yeah, but he also said that he wants to put off the fighting style of a TJ Dillashaw. That's kind of someone that is sort of influenced him throughout his development. And I mean, that's another lofty expectation for yourself. I'm curious to see if he can live up to that. If he can, big things are in his future for sure.
What do you think about that? Let's hit on that real quick. A name like AJ, ton of buzz around him, but we just mentioned Dillashaw and Bryce Mitchell. Ex-UFC champion. Bryce Mitchell's a huge rising star in the game. Is that too much on a young kid, or is that great to kind of have that behind you and on your shoulders?
So I hate to say it, but that's something there's a fine line between confidence and cockiness. Right. And that line is generally success. If you are Conor McGregor and you say, I'm going to go knock out Jose Aldo in a round, people are going to go, well, you're absolutely crazy. You're not going to do that until he does.
Yeah, and he's confident.
Right. And so.
But if he loses, that cocky son of
Exactly. And that's what I think really makes a fighter great is when you set some expectations for yourself and maybe fall short, but rally. This game is all about adjustment, even if it's just in the fight, Right. If you have a 3-round fight, however you perform in the first round, you're going to have to make adjustments to that, even if you were successful, to carry over that success into the second round. I feel like adjustment is also the key, the biggest factor in a fighter's career, So yeah, I think he's set some lofty expectations for himself, but at the same time, like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna come out here and be like, well, I just hope to get my hand raised. I don't care if it's exciting. I just whatever. I want to win the game. And it's like, well, you need to make people care, and there's no better way to make people care than to basically call out someone that people are familiar with. Not necessarily call them out as like I'm gonna compete against them, but I'm gonna emulate their style.
Yes.
I want to be just like them. And
right.
we all have role models in life, So
I'm looking at one right now.
Where?
Dean Toole, all the fights, island fights, all the comments, all this, he's only had one pro debut on his show.
Yeah.
SD Dumas, pro debut on iKON Fighting Federation, and Island Fights alum, all the amateurs. His last performance, I was there live, a head kick knockout that went viral. What do you think of SD Dumas?
Well, I mean, I called one of his amateur fights and was blown away with just his physical stature. It's hard not to make the comparisons to a John Jones because he looks like the man. He fights like the man in a lot of ways, and it's hard to be John Jones. It's unfair, honestly.
Yeah, that's one of those ones I think is...
Right. But when you look at his style and sort of the dynamic offense that he can bring, there's a lot of things to be excited about. It is interesting to make a pro debut after a loss, but I kind of like that challenge as well. You know what I mean? Like, it's important to be uncomfortable at times because this is a dangerous sport. It really is.
Right.
And if you find yourself coming into a pro career where you suffered no adversity, then the first time you have something go against you, the pressure gets to you in a way that you just never really ever handled before.
Right.
So this man's been shot 8 times. 8 times he's been shot. Almost died one time. And he talked about how fighting is just fun for him. So pro debut, amateur, whatever, this has all just been an adventure for him.
Right.
And he's on a pretty big stage, and if you talk to him and see him fight, you know what he likes to do on big stages.
I agree. All right, guys, we're here, main event. This is a 20-2 Hassan Askabov.
I'm still working on it. I should have it by fight time.
All right.
We'll go with that.
All right, it's pretty close, right? But Wright Jr., I feel definitely being overlooked here. We know that Hassan's 20-2, a complete animal, a monster, great 145, he's fighting at 155 here, going to be a featherweight into the next level. But Wright, same thing, a gritty veteran, over 25 professional fights. This is a phenomenal main event.
And he gets to play spoiler, I mean, if he pulls off the win, that is just stealing the shine. Stealing the shine.
Right.
You're one of 3 guys to beat someone who's had, 20 plus fights, so that would be a huge feather in his cap. And that's one thing that I think always makes mixed martial arts fun and exciting is the fact that there are odds, and you know how people feel and lean, but it's that old adage, like on any given Sunday in football, on any given, I guess, Thursday here at iKON, anything can happen, and that's why it's worth tuning in, because you never know what you're going to get, and he's got a really tough prospect in front of him. I mean, when you look at a fighter who's 20-2, training an American top team, it's hard not to be like, well, yeah, just go to UFC now. Like, just go. And we get the treat of seeing him fight here in iKON.
Love it.
And I'm excited to see that because, again, you want to get as much work as you can before you're fighting in an organization like UFC where, I mean, this year's a little bit different, but this is a sport where sometimes 3 fights in a year can be incredibly active. It's hard to get a lot of fights at the highest level.
It is.
So get as many fights as you can before you get there.
It's funny that you mentioned that. He said he waited a lot this year for this moment, for UFC call-up. Never got it. He says, I'm over it. I want to fight. We're thinking iKON 2, iKON 3. If he doesn't get the call and wins, he might get it right away. He might be fighting on Fight Island in 10 days. You never know, but he wants to stay active. He wants to keep on fighting for iKON Fighting Federation. So I'm pumped for that. We might see a lot of Hassan in the future.
I mean, this might be an iconic performance for him.
Whoa. A lot of buzzwords there. Last kind of question, idea, and especially with you, with Invicta FC, with open scoring.
Yeah.
I talked to Dean about it. He might, pull the trigger sooner or later on it. How has it been going so far with Invicta? Have you been a fan of it? We'll kind of wrap it up with that.
On paper, I hated the idea because, I mean, the Kansas Athletic Commission had some egg on their face, I think it was last year, maybe the year before, where they turned in a scorecard where they did the math wrong. Ended up being, it was announced as a split decision for Stephanie Geltmacher. It actually was a unanimous decision for Victoria Leonardo. And I'm sitting here going, okay, so now these judges essentially are going to be asked to tabulate their score live when they only have a minute to do so to articulate and relay that information to the fighters.
Right.
How is this going to go right? You had multiple minutes on end to add up a decision, and you didn't do it. Adam Rohrbach in Kansas has done everything right, and when you think about it, this is the only sport on the planet, combat sports, that doesn't have a scoreboard.
I know we talk about it all the time.
And if you aren't able to know where you stand in any single moment when it comes to the judges, how are you supposed to make that all-important adjustment that we were talking about earlier? And I love the idea of giving the fighters the information they need to make, obviously you want to keep it out of the hands of the judges. Dana White has done amazing things with the sport, but I'm sorry, don't leave it in the hands of the judges.
Right.
I get what he's saying, but it's the stupidest thing ever. No one will go, I could win this fight right now, but I'm not going to.
Right. In a football game, I want to win 35-0. You win that as much as you can.
Right.
Talking about the man right there, Dean Toole, matchmaker for iKON Fighting Federation. How you doing, brother?
Hi, guys. Oh, you guys are
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We're live on UFC Fight Pass right now. Thanks, though, dude.
He's the captain.
He is the captain of the ship.
I'm the captain
With
now.
the judging, and there's bad calls in basketball, there's bad calls in football all the time. But if we know where we're at in the 3rd round or the 5th round with Angie Hill, Michelle Watterson, if we know where we're at, then you know what you have to adjust and maybe be more aggressive.
So, going back to last weekend in Invicta, we had a atom weight title fight where the first, I would say, 3.5 minutes were dominated by a fighter on the feet. And then in the last 90 seconds, the other fighter got a takedown, and the judges gave her that round. And it's like, okay, well, that sort of supports the point where judges tend to only remember the last little bit of a round. And things get magnified even more when it's like a groin strike or things like there's a stoppage, and I feel like sometimes you forget about the entire first part of the round.
2-3 minutes of the round,
exactly, and that information needs to be known.
Very cool. Guys, what a great time. We cannot wait. Tonight, UFC Fight Pass, 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern, sponsored by Fusion CBD products. Check them out at fusioncbd.com. TJ, any last words?
No, it's going to be an iconic night.
Can't say it better than that, guys. I'm David Auken. Have a great night. We'll talk to you guys soon.